And we are off into Game 3 of the WCG 2013 Game Festival. Spawning in the top right-hand position as the red Protoss. Give it up for Sora from CJ Entis. And his opponent in the bottom left-hand position, once again, as the blue Zerg. His name is SoulKey from Kunshan Stars. Both of these players, Code S caliber players. They have done an amazing job making it to the finals, and what a show they've been putting on for us so far. An amazing long macro game in match number 1 on Derelict Watcher, with game number 2 being short and sweet on Belshir Vestige as SoulKey trampled over Sora's basically defenseless third expansion into the main base with a massive amount of Zerglings and a victory. And it's time, I guess, for Sora to switch things up as he is building a pylon in his main base, which heavily hints towards a gateway expansion opening, which has been a little bit different than the first 2 games where he decided to go with the Forge expansion opening. SoulKey, on the other hand, is switching up his style as well, making a hatchery at the natural before the spawning pool. We'll give him a very slight economic edge. And, oh, very interesting. It looks like Sora is deciding to build the Nexus at the natural, so he could go for the gateway, but it's also very possible that he builds that Forge as well in the main base, and indeed he will build the Forge in the main. Now, this is a slight variation off the Forge Nexus opening. You do get your expansion up a little bit earlier. It's very safe against any type of early all-ins because you have the pylon in the main base. You can build some cannons in your main mineral line. I suppose Sora may be a little bit afraid of his opponent doing some early type of harassment. And actually, this is 3 hatch before pool. Sora, he sees the spawning pool just beginning. Will we see a cannon rush, or will Sora just continue upon his merry way, building the gateway? He's going for a gas, a double gas very fast afterwards. So I anticipate he will not indeed go for the cannon rush, but the option technically is available to him, despite this drone scouting him and following that probe around. Confirming the 3rd hatchery, Sora knows that SoulKey is going to be in an amazing economic position, so I am curious to see how Sora will respond. With both players opening with very greedy economic builds, we're essentially saying, or going to see a more of a macro late game style game. Pretty fast cybernetic score going up as well. And photon cannons defend against Zerglings. The first pair on their way, along with 2 queens to boot. I'm currently birthing in the hatcheries. Birthing, I guess, if you will. So despite relatively economic openers, a little bit more than normal, the early game is still very standardized as far as PvZ goes. You always see that, the cybernetic score after the gateway, the cannon, the wall off at the natural, getting a zealot potentially to wall off your positioning so the Zerg can't run by with lots of Zerglings in the early game. And Sora will continue his trend of opening Stargate style. And you know what? I actually think that SoulKey may not end up seeing the Stargate. The Overlord positioning is not good enough to really see the Stargate, and this is actually a pretty cool, cute little spot that Sora is hiding the Stargate. The gas timings have not been seen for SoulKey as well, but he'll be able to pop over and see them any second, knowing that they're up. It's really good to know if the Zerg player is, or excuse me, if the Protoss player is getting those additional gases or not, because if they're not getting it, it very potentially leads towards a strong 2-base all-in timing. And oh, look at this. Oracle on the way for Sora. Because the Stargate was not scouted, it seems like he wants to be, a little bit, more aggressive, trying to trick his opponent. SoulKey, on the other hand, just building up drone after drone after drone. Lots in production. A robotics facility and being built behind the Stargate. And the Zerglings pecking away at the rocks between the natural and 3rd of the Hive player. Okay, here comes the Mothership Core with the Oracle and their powers combined, they'll be able to easily pick off the Queen. There's no point in even running away. And the drones, you can see, oh, excellent time warp right on the middle of the drones. That's going to allow this Oracle to get a lot of kills. If he continues chasing down those workers, he should be able to get a few more. But oh no, the Oracle, it's simply focusing on the Queen. And now very low on health, without any energy. It's forced to run away. I would have preferred to see the Oracle try to pick off a few more workers. But, you know, overall, not bad. Not bad for Sora. He's also following this up with a Void Ray. He's getting his third expansion. This time around, we're not going to see SoulKey go for any type of 3-base break on the Protoss end. Expansion timing very similar. The only difference really is the fact that the Oracle and Mothership Core moved out and killed off a few drones. All right, very cool response from SoulKey. He's deciding to go for that Spire. If you get the Oracle, the chance that you go Phoenix afterward is reduced somewhat. And the Void Ray is revealed. The Zerglings know this. With the Spire on the way, it would not be surprising to see some Corruptors come out. And SoulKey is stockpiling a good amount of gas. The Mutalisk tech tree will be unlocked with the Spire. It certainly was something else we could see. And with the stockpiling of gas, very, very possible. Sora about to complete his Warp Prism, building a Colossi behind that, a Colossus, with the +1 attack as well underway. Sentries at the natural that help with force fields against any type of attack from the front. The question is going to be what will come out of this next big batch of larvae. There's about 1,100 to 1,200 minerals and gas saved up for the Zerg player, and SoulKey says, I'm going for Mutalisks. I'm going to make 11. And Sora, he's making 2 additional Stargates. If he scouts the Mutalisk tech in time, he will very easily hard counter the Mutalisks with the Phoenix. But they're coming out, they're almost complete, and as long as they're not seen in time, then they could potentially do a ridiculous amount of damage. And behind this, we do have a Hydralisk infestation pit being created. Roaches on the way, additional Zerglings on the way. The Mutas are just going to be built, and then we will see a transition out of that. SoulKey seems to know what's up. He's building a lone Phoenix, and I'm sure more to follow. Revelation has been put on those Mutalisks. The real question is going to be, does Sora have enough to defend against the Mutalisks? He's going to fly past the natural, going into the main. I believe 1 Mutalisk has been killed off, and the Warp Prism actually getting a little bit too overeager there. He's going to end up falling as well. One of the Void Rays could potentially die. Sora needs to be very careful of his units, but at the same time, SoulKey, the Mutalisk positioning and location has been revealed due to Revelation. So we can't run around without Sora knowing exactly what's happening, what's going on. The Void Rays, one of them gets picked up, the second may fall as well. This is actually turning into a nightmare for Sora. He needs to have an additional Phoenix out if he wants to defend against this Zerg army. We're seeing some key differences between game number 1 and the third match between Sora and SoulKey. Tech choices are a little bit different as far as the Zerg player goes for the mid game. Mutalisk proving to be much more useful over the Swarm host that we saw in the first match. Nice to see that Oracle still alive and kicking. SoulKey also has his 4th base online much quicker and without any harassment essentially happening to it. Very smart, also using the Envision ability to spot those creep tumors, pick them off. And oh, the Mutalisk running right into the Colossi, but the Phoenix count is very formidable. On the ground, it seems to be a different story as the Zerg player, SoulKey, is attacking a lot of these units, but the Colossi, SoulKey, if he can get that, it'll be worth it. It's getting very low on health. Yes, the Colossi indeed falls, but we're having a ridiculous amount of lifts on the Queens, at least for the time being. However, Sora is forced back as he has lost all of his Colossus. +1 attack about to complete for SoulKey and his air units. It looks like his tech is really all over the place. He's going for Hydralisks, swarm hosts, corruptors, queens, and he could potentially pick off a unit or two there. He's going for a queen in the main base. This is going to be annoying for SoulKey to deal with. And the drones will now begin to fall as well, one by one. The queen being taken out in the main base. I really like what Sora's doing here. He's going to get a lot of damage done. Loses 2 Phoenix, however, but he has killed a total of 10 drones throughout the game. Sora now changing his tech. Actually, this may be a little bit of an overstep from the Protoss player. Losing a few additional Phoenix. Ouch. Down the 4. I believe he had double that number not too far ago. The Zealots, though, these could prove to be a mighty deadly as they pretty much just run around the Zerg Zerg main army and are heading straight for that main hatchery at the 3rd location. Can they DPS it down? It's going to be close, and the transfusion should be able to keep the hatchery alive. The Zealots fall, and this attack, all for nothing. Supply-wise, SoulKey is looking to be in a commanding position as well. 195 supplies to the 153 of Sora. And the siege begins as the swarm hosts move closer to the Protoss 3rd expansion. No 4th in sight for Sora. That would be a sight for sore eyes. A few of the queens actually out of position. The Zerg army caught kind of off guard, and the queens are all going to get killed off essentially for free. But no, the Phoenixes just are going to keep them lifted in the air, and this is turning into a massacre. Trees are getting burned at the sides. The Corruptors are falling very, very fast. Hydras and Queens doing the best they can to pick off the rest of the Void Rays. It's going to be a very close battle, but things are looking really good for SoulKey. He's still at 178 supply compared to the paltry 140 of Sora, as he's forced to get into a more and more defensive position. But at the same time, the 3rd base falls for SoulKey, and that leaves him down the 3. Man, this guy is good at counterattacks with Zealots against Zerg. All right, well, SoulKey, he will be regrouping, adding in more swarm hosts to the army, focusing on the +2 ranged attack and flyer carapace. Zerglings running by, trying to delay this 4th expansion. The DPS is looking strong from Sora, but does he have enough to pick off the Corruptors? Oh, it doesn't look like it. Zealot Warpins will allow that 4th base to be saved. The Corruptors got to be careful. They don't want to get too over-eager. There are 3 Stargates in production, or producing units. The 3 Colossi here are really helping this Protoss backbone army survive as well. It seems that the real threat, I feel at this point, it's the Corruptors and it's the Swarm Hosts. You have to kill one before you can kill the other most of the time, and you know what? I actually think he may do it. The Colossi, with their extended Thermal Lance range, they're absolutely going to town, killing off a few of the Swarm Hosts. The Void Ray, the last one, is about to fall, but the Stalkers still remaining on the low ground. Can Sora break this entrenched position? It looks like he's getting so close every time, but he's just lacking a few too little units in order to really break this Zerg attack. Minerals beginning to run low for both players for the main and natural. I believe Sora is essentially mined out when it comes to the main base, and he is indeed sending most of his probes to the 4th expansion. The siege continues. Sora using those swarm hosts to great effect. And the Zerglings and Hydras, they may go for the probes moving to the 4th, but at the same time, Sora once again, this guy just loves his run-bys with the Zealots. He's going to try to harass the 4th base, and the transfuses, they're connecting with those Corruptors, doing an excellent job. The Colossi count is great, but the Corruptors, man, if there's no anti-air, those few Stalkers, you're going to need them a little bit more than that to pick off the Corruptors. They're just too tanky. This is still a very intense game between Sora and SoulKey. Anyone's game. The Corruptors parked outside the Stargates. Going to try to maybe focus down a Colossi or two. Can they get one? Yes. One indeed falls. SoulKey is just slowly inching forward, bit by bit, into the base. I believe he picked off a Void Ray, and he's going to get a second one as well. I think Sora needs to just abandon his air units and go purely with the Stalkers. The Corruptors are just continuing to do buttloads of damage, completely dismantling, disabling the backbone of Sora's army because there's only Stalkers left that can really fight. And it's starting to look worse and worse for Sora. Yes, he has 4 bases, but does that really matter when the Zerg player is constantly knocking at your doorstep between the natural and the third with free locusts constantly pouring in? It's just got to be a really, really annoying scenario for Sora. And SoulKey about 50 supply ahead of his opponent, give or take. Actually up to about 70 now. Zealot reinforcements at the third. The Locusts continuing to be annoying. And actually, the Stalkers worth their weight in gold as they move past the bulk of the Zerg army. And GG is called. Sora down to the 1 over